What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the show, and today we're taking on Harley Davidson. That's right, we're talking about Harley today, and we're starting a very small 3-part mini-series on the channel. It's going to be happening over the next week or two, and the reason why we're doing this is because Harley Davidson just launched their 2025 model year, and honestly, most of it isn't that exciting. Usually they do this big schmaltzy video where they talk about all of the cool stuff that's coming in 2025 and freedom and heritage and brother and all of this other stuff that they just sort of work into jangly guitar music. I don't know why they didn't do that this year. Kind of a bummer. Maybe I'll check their channel and see. No, they didn't do it this year. Don't know why. And honestly, they should have done it because one of the cool things about it is we actually see these characters from the company, like Paul, and you see Brad Richards, and you see some of the other folks within Harley Davidson talking about the brand, and it's really exciting. And last year they put way too much gain on these people, but that was not reason enough to cancel the series. Now, the way this is going to be broken down is there's going to be 3 videos. Today, we're going to talk about why I like Harley Davidson, because I actually have kind of a complicated relationship with that company to the point where people at Harley Davidson tell me how complicated our relationship is. 2, we're going to talk about my favorite motorcycle from the 2025 model year launch, and if you know anything about me, you already know what it is. And then the 3rd video is going to be why Harley Davidson drives me crazy. So without further ado, let's dive on in today and talk about why I like Harley Davidson. Now, while I'm out here gearing up, I gotta ask you a quick question. Are you pulling a Harley Davidson and pounding the same pavement that you've been riding on for years? If you're anything like me, you've got a handful of go-to roads that you ride all the time, but lately I've been trying to expand my repertoire with Calimoto. They're the best riding app I've used, and I've used a ton of them. And that's because they've got a phone app, sure, but they also have a website where you can plan your rides on your computer rather than trying to place a dozen pins in Google Maps. Then when you open the app, it's sitting there ready for you to use right from your phone. It took me 2 minutes to plan a 121-mile ride through some of the best twisties that Central Texas has to offer. Unfortunately, where I live, we get a Calimeter rating of 22 out of 100, so that's not great. Yeah, it even ranks the twistiness of your ride. You can share routes easily with your friends, record rides, and even see what other people have created. Check out Calimoto by clicking that link down in the description below and using the code SPITE10 for 10% off a yearly subscription. Now let's hit the road.
Now, I have a feeling that this topic is liable to generate a lot of ire, both from Harley people and from people who can't stand Harley. The people who can't stand Harley, it makes sense because I'm talking about Harley Davidson. There's a lot of, let's call it a zero-sum population, where basically to talk about Harley at all is to sin. And I think that's a mistake, or rather to talk about Harley in any positive light is to sin, because Harley Davidson motorcycles are slow and they're expensive and they can't turn and, you know, yada yada yada. And then from the Harley people, I get a ton of flack because I am super critical of Harley Davidson. I am one of the most vocal Harley critics out there, to the point where when I'm sitting down with the folks from Harley Davidson, they're like, you know, you can't talk about the good stuff, right? So, you know, and it is worth pointing out that I still do have a relationship with Harley Davidson. I don't do a lot with them right now because I don't see much value in just, you know, reviewing the newest Road Glide. I'd love to check out a CVO Road Glide ST, but those things are expensive, man. They're really expensive. Again, going back to one of the few major complaints against Harley Davidson is, god damn, is that bike expensive. It's a Road Glide, and I think the base Road Glide starts at like $22,500. Then it's got the fancy suspension in the back, some carbon fiber bits, a bigger motor, and suddenly it's $40,000 out the door. I also hear a ton of people be like, okay, yeah, Harley Davidson is an American brand, but you know what? Indian they're an American brand too, and they make better motorcycles. And yeah, sure, they definitely do. I mean, if you look at the King of the Baggers, which we'll talk about a little bit more at length, the Indian bikes, I'm not going to say that they're handicapped, but Harley Davidson is slightly advantaged, shall we say. They can have bigger motors because they're air-cooled, not liquid-cooled. And if you look at the entry-level bikes, the Scouts versus the old-school Sportster, the Scout walks all over the old-school Sportster. It does not walk over the new Sportster. The new Sportster, the Nightster, that is a phenomenal motorcycle. It is just comically expensive. Again, going back to the price of the badge, man. But I think it's worth reiterating that I actually have a very long history with Harley Davidson. My first motorcycle that I bought December 2016, that was my very first motorcycle. I bought it before I could ride. A young Spite was sitting in his first apartment in Austin, realizing how much he was paying for parking downtown at an office building. And I was like, you know what? A motorcycle is cheaper and I can park it for free. So let's find out what motorcycle I should buy. I start looking online, and who do I find but Lemmy from Revzilla, whose tag is the good Harley guy. And in that year, both the Scout and the Street 750 were out. And so, because I didn't really understand sport bikes and the different variations of motorcycles, like the idea of a naked motorcycle didn't really comprehend or didn't compute for me back in the day. It was cruisers and sport bikes. So I was like, I want something comfortable because I'm commuting. Cruisers are supposed to be comfortable. I hear Lazy Boy on wheels and all that stuff. And I knew I didn't want a big, super expensive one. I also knew that I didn't want something too powerful, which is kind of funny now that I think that, you know, the bike I was looking at was a Scout 60, and that makes like 80 or 90 horsepower or something like that. Like, that bike is inappropriate for a beginner. So I'm watching Lemmy's videos, and I'm doing my research, and I choose the Scout. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go get the Scout because it looks cool, you know, it looks comfortable, and there's one available around me for pretty cheap, and Indian is doing this 0% APR deal. So I hop on that, I go to the dealership, I file all the paperwork, and they deny me over 2 points on my credit score. I left the Indian dealership, I went down to the Harley dealership, and I walked out that day with a promissory note saying that I was going to get a Harley Davidson Street 750 delivered to my house because I could not ride yet, and I had a WIO that said that I was going to get myself a Riders Academy class thrown in. So I learned on the Street 500, and then I went on to own the Street 750. So it's one of those cool situations where, you know, you learn on the bike that you start on. What, the wet?
Yes. Shut up. I don't like it, and the fucking
What are you, a fucking gremlin, dude?
and the V-Star didn't like it either. He went, and I went, oh fuck, if he went wah-wah, I'm gonna go wah-wah.
You just go straight and pull in the clutch. It's not hard.
It's not hard, but it's still scary.
But then after I had the Street 750, I had the Street Rod, which we actually just sold that. We sold that yesterday as I'm filming this. And then I was riding that around. I had a lot of fun, and I saw a 919 in a garage. And then I was like, oh, holy cow, that looks really cool. That was the first time a naked bike kind of clicked for me. And then I bought one, and I realized how fast a motorcycle could be. Because the Harley, yeah, it's about as potent as an SV650 in terms of horsepower, but it is not as fast as an SV650. And then I think I just kind of went down the sport bike hole of thinking, well, I can get so much power, I can get so much performance, and all of that for less than the price of an 883, which makes 40 horsepower, or 50 horsepower, or however much it makes. So I started to do the value proposition thing.
And it is kind of a fact that when you look at a Harley Davidson versus, let's say, this 210 660 right here. That 210 660 is $13,000, I think, out the door. That thing was $12,000 base price. So you couldn't get that out the door for less than that Aprilia. And that Aprilia is faster, it's lighter, it's got more technology. It is just in every way a better motorcycle. So chasing that value proposition, like a lot of riders do, took me away from Harley for a long, long time. And it wasn't until, I can't remember what year it was, but back at Yammy Noob, we made a video where Yam, myself, and our camera guy, Andrew, we rode 3 different bikes and we spent a day on it. And I rented a Sportster 48. Because I was just like, let's give the Sportster a shot. I had actually never ridden one. And after riding that thing, I realized that I had missed something. There's something to a Sportster or one of the big air-cooled Dynas that you can't get elsewhere. And then I rode a V-Star, one of the Yamaha, no, it's not a V-Star, it's a Bolt, one of the little 900cc V-twins. And I rode that and I was like, this sucks. Because it was a simulacrum of what a Sportster was. But it didn't have a lot of the character that makes a Sportster a Sportster. And then we did the Sportster 883 1275 kit, and that was a whole thing. And for those of you who don't know, what ended up happening is when I was heat cycling it, I wasn't clear to Yam that the bike was not ready to go, and so he took it out for a quick little ride and ran the motor a little bit quicker than it was supposed to, and we pulled the studs, all 8 studs out of the lower. So we had to have the case helicoiled, which ended up fixing it. But you know, it was at the mechanic we had look at it. It was like, yeah, you forgot to torque the head bolts, and I was like, I did not forget to torque the head bolts. But that was one of the most unique wrenching experiences I had, and I started to miss it when it was gone, just because, you know, it's such a special thing to be able to tear into a motor, replace half of it, and come out with a bike that's making another 30 or 40 horsepower. I mean, that Sportster was making 100 to the wheel with a single disc up front and right side up forks. It was a dangerous motorcycle, but it was so much fun to ride. It definitely needed one of the V-Rod calipers up front, for sure, because those are actually Brembos. And then I started to ride more Harleys. I started to ride the Milwaukee 8s. I started to see what they could do with the Pan America and the Livewire and all of this stuff. And I started to see a company that was incredibly capable, and I started to meet the guys who worked there, and I realized that not only were they capable engineers and they made great bikes, but they were really passionate about riding, to the point where now they have a freaking race team because, of course, why not? I think it's a little silly that Harley isn't riding in, you know, other classes. I mean, they have the Pan Americas going in Super Hooligan and stuff, but, you know, make a bike that's designed for that class, guys. And I think that's a lot of the frustration that I have with the brand, and that's why I am so critical of Harley Davidson. And I think that's what a lot of people get wrong about when I'm talking about Harley. I love this brand because every experience that I have had on a Harley Davidson has been fun. I have never had a bad experience on a Harley, not once. I've taken them across the country, I've taken them across Texas, I've taken them through you know, twisty mountain roads. I've taken them down highways. I've never had a bad time on a Harley Davidson. I have had a bad time on a Kawasaki, and you guys know which one it is. But I can't think of a time I got on a bike with the bar and shield and didn't have fun. But that doesn't excuse a company's lack of desire to improve. So a lot of my criticism is me looking at Harley and just being like, come on, I know you can do better. I'm not mad, I'm disappointed. And I look at all of the brands out there pushing the limits. And I see Livewire, which is now, they've moved back to Milwaukee, and they're bringing out the Alpinista, which is, I think the official reveal is happening on the 15th. You know, the speculation is running wild about what the Alpinista is. I mean, it's pretty clear under the X's. But, you know, I'm going to wait to reserve judgment on that one. But they have this potential, and I love seeing that. And I love seeing the passion within the brand. All the riders in the brand love riding motorcycles. There's not a single person I've met from Harley who doesn't have a bike in the garage. One of the guys in the PR team used to race Buells. One of the guys in the PR team is now on his second road glide, because his first one, which was this beautiful satin red one, ended up getting in an accident. He was fine, but the bike was such a shame because it was this flat satin red, and holy shit was it glorious. And you know, you see guys stunting Harleys and stuff, and it really is a passion around the company. I just feel like they're trading on yesterday's image today. And I don't think they can keep doing that. Especially when you consider that I've got a Pan America right behind me in this group ride. And I just look at that and I'm like, how did Harley Davidson make a bike that good on their first at bat? You know, it's got its problems, but it's a great bike. They had no right to make a bike that good. And then you realize, oh wait, they drove innovation for such a long time. And now they're just kind of letting it go. And so while I love the brand, I will remain critical of Harley Davidson. And I enjoy riding this Sportster. I reached for the keys to the Sportster over the keys to my Aprilia today. I'm just going to say that. Both of them are sitting at the end of the garage, so they're easy for me to get out of. And I just decided to take the Sportster today because the Sportster is just fun. Something about the sound and the vibration and hearing the valve train rattle like a freaking maraca. It's cool. So let me know your thoughts on all this down in the comments below. I definitely am interested to see where you guys land on this, because it's an interesting subject that I think doesn't get a lot of serious debate. A lot of people just are like, you know what, Harley bad. Okay, yeah, sure, maybe they are to you, but they're one of the biggest motorcycling brands, period. I don't think this is the case anymore, but at one point, 50% of all new motorcycle sales were Harleys. Now it's closer to like a third, and probably now closer to a quarter. But, I mean, that is an amazing amount of market share. So, let me know all your thoughts down in the comments below. And catch you guys in the next one. See you later.